we were doing object orientation in Python. We did progress to some extent. That means now you know how one can build a very, very simple object in Python. And in order to build an object, you have to develop a class. And then you take an instance of the class, and we call that an object. And we also say that if you have a class, you can create or instantiate many objects of that class or type, we can say type, with different arguments, different initial values, which will, for example, in the case of bank account, in one case, we did not have any balance to start with, which was C, while D had, when you created,
So
we
there's some very loud background noise.
Okay, let me check. Maybe it's coming from my side.
is it better now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was saying that when we create a C and D, C was without any balance and D was with some balance. So although the class was the same, the two objects behaved in some sense differently. Okay, so they have their properties, the methods, the accessors, they are the same, but the initial condition, that means the data that they hold to start with, was different. I mean, we could, like, if D had 1000 as the initial value, we could simply withdraw 1000 and then they will be the same. But that apart, and we said in the very beginning that a file where you write valid Python code, in principle, could be used as a module. Okay, of course, you will not arbitrarily do that. A module has a purpose. So when you, for example, if I have to write a music track, we developed a class called track, and we put them in a file called track.py. Okay, now the class name could be track with capital T, and the file name could be track with small t, or if you want, with capital T. But we put it in whatever order we put, and then we do import in our main Python program, or on the Python command prompt. We write import track, that will import all the symbols which are available in that file. In our case, it was only a class called track, so it will import the class symbol, and then you are creating an object of that type class as track, passing some data which that object will now hold, and then we could print it, we could do some operations on that. So these we have learned. So class, etc., class, object, which is object oriented programming parlance, but module is a slightly different thing. So even if it is not object oriented, for example, our procedural bank account could also be a package or module. Okay. So with that, I think this is some old Jupyter session which I can share if it's not already shared last year. So, but the code is in principle the same. Then we'll come to what we already discussed a little bit, just mentioned, is inheritance. Inheritance is important because the other name of inheritance is also called code reuse. Okay, so that means, for example, if I want to develop an object which is of type student, that means I want to develop software to represent a student. Technically, I would say that in Python, I will develop a class called student, and then I will instantiate that student for as many times as there are students. Okay, so all the students will be of type student, but if I have arguments like name, some ID, etc., the year and so on, those will be different. So all the objects will be created differently, but they will be created from the same blueprint, which is called a student. Now, student is also a person. Okay, So if I ask you to develop a student, you will first try to think whether some other day I will also ask you to create another class for this teacher. Okay, if you think that yes, I may do that, you will not immediately go and start implementing student. Okay, what you will do is, you will, if you can guess that there will be a teacher also, you will try to understand what is common between a student and a teacher. So, and then it will immediately come to your mind that both of them are person. So what you may do is that you develop, instead of directly developing student or later on directly developing a teacher, you will start with a person, because person is common to both student and teacher, and person will have some properties. For example, so let us start developing. I will not really execute it today, I'll just show you. So then person will have the constructor. Let us say the only two properties I am assigning, one is the name, another is the age. Okay, so you will see that sometimes I use one underscore, I use sometime some other time I use two underscores, double underscores, but that is up to you. So I say self, let us make it one for the time being for simplicity. Underscore name equals to name, because that's what you have passed. And here there is no default value, because you have to really specify the name, you have to really specify the age. And self dot underscore age equals to age. So this is, if I now instantiate a person, I have to pass the name and age. And then if you want me to return the name or age of that person, I will simply call a function called name or self. And you remember, if I put a property decorated here, I don't even have to call name by as a function. I can also, so for example, if I, this you saw in the morning, like that, or this one. It's not very important here because it's just for demonstration. Then you don't even have to, if I create an let us try it, let us try it out. And you see that I also have another function called introduce. So introduce will simply print something about the person, which is equivalent to what we did in the morning as underscore underscore str underscore underscore. We could also do that. So if I have such a class, let us see whether I can compile it. Yes, I could load it. Then let me insert a cell above this, and I say p1 equals to person. Then I have to pass, as you can see, self I can omit, and I have to pass the 2. So I can say ab, which is the name and surname, 20. Okay, or whatever. Okay, and if you do that, cell above, then I can say p1 dot introduce, and it will, okay, it gives me an error, introduce. Okay, something's wrong here. Fortunately I have removed it, so I have to start it again and introduce. So it will say person, name is a b comma age is 20. This is exactly the format in which I have written here. So I have the person. Okay, now I want to write the software for student. I know that students also has a name, and there is an age also for the student. So what I'm going to do now is that I say class student, and in the bracket I put person. So student, person is now a base class, and student is a derived class, or person is a mother class, student is a daughter class. Okay, and these I have not said earlier. With these three double quotes here, you can actually create a documentation string in Python, which you will learn. I will not go into much detail. This is a comment string plus a documentation string. Okay, usually in Python, so this you can also write like this. If you have a long comment string which is not in a single line, you could also write like this. Okay, a student class which inherits blah blah blah, etc., etc. So this will be a comment, as well as Python will be able to use whatever you write there as a documentation also for the class student. Okay, so student will now need its own constructor, and there are some issues we have to see whether it works. And then you see another thing, I have not added, I have added only one more property, which is called the ID, nothing else. And you see that I have the same function as in the person called introduce self. And this is called, this has a significance. A daughter class or daughter object, if you like, can override a mother object, not object really, a daughter uh, function, the member function actually can override the mother member function. This is what is happening. So what will happen is that if I did, let us do it. Let us make it like this. I have mother, but I don't, in the daughter, I don't have introduce method. If I don't have any introduce method in the daughter, then it will use the introduce method of the mother. We can do that. So if P is my, okay, I'm doing it again. If P is the person, S is the is that student is not defined. I have to first do this. Okay, so I have created also a student. Now I am saying P, I am asking P to introduce itself. So it will introduce itself. I am now asking S to introduce itself. And you see that they are the same, because S is a daughter class of P. So it has inherited all the public attributes of the mother class. And one of the functionalities is introduce. So it has introduced the functionality from the mother, and it is sending its own object. So here it was A, it is B. Okay, the age. So that means the data is different. Data pertain to the student, but the function which is called with the student data is from the parent. So that's the important part of the inheritance. Now I was saying, if I change this and I give another introduce function which is specific to the student, but which has the same name as the one which is available in the mother, that means the daughter function will now override the mother function. So if I can reintroduce this, person is still there. I start with the daughter. I, I create the daughter again. I introduce the mother, and now I introduce the daughter. And self name. Again, I made some mistake. What's that? So firstly, in it, I can do it here, but that was not the problem for sure. So the problem is that str object is not callable. Introduce str object is not callable. That I have to understand why. Introduce self, return student name, etc., etc. Self name. Something is wrong that I have to understand. Let me first start with person itself, because otherwise it may not even work. Then this is the student. I have a new person. I have a new student. I have this one, and this is where I get the error. This is where I get the error.
Maybe you have
For
used
age,
a
you are
property.
using string star as for age. I think that should be star d, like percentage d.
You have used it as a property.
Age is, yes, age. But here it works. Age 30. I should not have put. I could put
It's
D
the
here.
name. It's the name is not a callable function. It says string object is not callable.
String object is not callable, so it's something which I introduced here, which is, yeah, if name, maybe with the properties, does it, with the properties, does it lose the, then I don't know that. Let me check. Because in the working version, let me, okay, for the timing, let me remove the properties which I introduced, and then this one, okay, this, and as you said, this could be ID and age should be integer, which I have corrected now. Also here I can correct. That's okay. So then let me once again try. It's confusing a little bit. So this one works. This I don't really care, and this one also works. Then I create P. I create this. I say introduce, and I say okay. So it looks like if I use the decorator, then something is something changed. Okay, okay. I no longer can use the function notation. I have to use the object object accessor notation, which is fine. But anyway, now the important point is that now you can see that the student version of the introduce method was called. Okay, so this is called overriding. That means if I inherit some functionalities from the parent or mother, and then I give the same, I try to re-implement the same functionality by function, okay, with the same name, then it will override the mother one and it will use my own version. Sometimes it may so happen that you override the mother version and you have your own version, but in your own version you first call the mother version and then you do something else. That is also possible. Okay. Now what is very important here, which we have not discussed at all, is that Python has another very powerful capability, which is we have done something, okay, but and Python keeps track of everything that you are doing. How do you know? Let us say I have this class called person, I have the class called student. Okay, so let us just execute this. Student is a class and I have a function, inbuilt function called deed. Okay, I say deed of student. Then what happens? Let us see. And you see that it is now giving you all the magical thing. What are those magical things? First of all, you have a large number of special attributes, okay, which are common to each class. Okay, if you do it per person also, that will tell you all these things. And one of them will be init underscore init. One of them will be underscore del. It must be there somewhere. Okay, then you have str somewhere, and you see that there are many others. Okay, many others. So we will not need most of them, but they are there. But not only, you also have the properties which you have added. So for example, from person I have two properties, name and age, and from student I have an extra property of ID. Now when I do a deed of a student, I should have at the end some more information. Here I have age, I have name, and I have introduce, which is from the mother. So it gets from the mother all the properties. Okay, then why it doesn't get its own property is another question. I have added on. Okay, before that, let me also say this, that when you have the constructor of the daughter, then because the constructor is inheriting the properties of the mother, and I am trying to create the daughter object, the daughter object cannot be created before the mother object is created. Okay, only after the mother object is properly created, then only you add extra properties which is specific to the daughter in order to create the daughter object. So in the constructor of the daughter object must pass all the relevant arguments in order to create the mother object first and then assign the daughter information. This is what you will find here, that the function underscore init underscore then self, now you understand name, age, and ID. So name and age, you have to you know, they will be passed to the person, and ID is very specific to the student. So what you do, you call the constructor of the mothers, and this is one syntax that you have to follow. I cannot really explain this. It's the is the syntax of calling the mother constructor from a daughter constructor. Okay, so from the daughter constructor, you are calling explicitly the mother constructor by saying super. Okay, by saying super, dot super will give you access to the mother object, mother, let's say, constructor, not constructor, mother class, and then as if you are calling the constructor method of that type. So this, I think, is a syntax, it's a grammar that you have to keep in mind. But this has to be done. Otherwise, if you don't do this, then name and age, that means the person object is not initialized properly. If the person object is not initialized properly, then later on, when you will access name or age, etc., it will not come. And then you are simply adding the property specific to the daughter. Okay, now let us see what we are doing. So if I do deed of student, then you will get this. Instead, if I do also, let me also do this. So there are other, which is not here, you can see. There is also another attribute called basis, and if you put basis, it tells you who is the mother. So student student dot underscore underscore basis underscore underscore will tell you that it has a mother, which is person. In principle, if you have more than one mothers, and that's why there is a comma, they will be listed. Okay, doc string, because I have written a documentation string here. You can see that I have written in the a student class was my documentation string. It is automatically captured and by Python runtime, and you have, when you type doc, it gives you a documentation string. So if you have a very well defined documentation of your class, description of your class, you will be able to read it also. Then what I was saying, let us see something that I also don't understand. So if I do, instead of deed of student, if I do deed of P, if I do deed of P, what happens? Because it's a person. It gives you age and name. You see that age comes with the real variable name, underscore age, underscore name, and age introduce name. These three are the functions which are there. If instead I do, I do deed of S, then I have to see what happens. Then you can see that I have age, I have name, I also have the ID, because ID is something which is specific to the student. So this is one thing which you have to understand, that if you inherit from a mother class and you just do a deed of the daughter class name, then it's still static. It shows the properties of the mother. But if you create an object of both types, so in the mother type, you will get on the mother attributes. In the daughter object, you will also get the daughter object, because there is the only extra attribute that I have is the ID. In principle, in the daughter object, I should also add something like def, like here, where is that? Def ID self return self dot underscore ID. Okay, if I would do that and create, if I do that and I create my object here, and I try to look at the deed of S, then in principle I should also get another function which is ID. So I have three attributes which are member variables. Okay, age, ID, and name, and I have four functions altogether. One is age, ID, and name, and also because I'm introducing myself, I have also introduced. Okay, so this is a very brief discussion. Let me check whether there must be some questions. Okay, not. So this is in brief a description of how inheritance works. Okay. There is also another concept in object orientation in all languages, also in Python, which is called composition. Composition, in simple terms, means a complex object is made up of simpler objects. This is composition. So, questions? Okay. Now, so complex
Uh,
objects are made up of,
Hello, sir.
yes,
So can I ask? So suppose there are two mother classes.
yes.
So while defining, there is a super command that you written, right? Syntax.
Hmm.
So the same super syntax, I mean, the command you will use or something else. If there is more than one mother class.
Yes, then you have to. Yes, then you have to really. I don't know exactly because using multiple inheritance is very bad, so you don't do it. You know that in root they use multiple inheritance in C++. In Python, in principle, it is available, but one should not do it. I don't recall exactly the syntax. You are very right that because you have one super, okay, with which you you initialize one mother. Okay, so if you have two mothers, then of course just single super will not do. You have to really access them through the name of the class. Here, as I said super, and that gives me the mother class. Okay, then underscore underscore init. In the case of multiple, inheritance, and if there are many arguments, a first set of argument goes to initialize the first mother, the second set go to the second mother, then you have to access the constructor of individual mothers by the name of the class. Instead of super, you will now explicitly put the name. Okay, first mother and second mother dot dot underscore underscore init. That you can do.
Okay, sir.
You understand? So, for
Yeah.
example, here, if you have only one mother, you put super. You don't care about the name of the mother. So, even someday the mother name changes, that means you inherit from something else, your code continues to work as long as the argument list is the same. But if you have many mothers, then because the order of the mother can also change as you write them within bracket mother A comma mother B, etc., you have to explicitly name the mother and call the underscore underscore init function of that mother, passing the correct set of arguments. But I have never used multiple inheritance in Python. Okay, and it is generally a bad idea because I thought you were asking something more because let us say your code is, your class is inheriting from two such mothers. Okay, and both the mothers for some reason have the same function. These mothers are independent, that means they don't have any relation, but your class somehow you feel that I can inherit from both of them. Okay, so if you do that, and you want to call one method which the same method is available in both the mothers, you will be in trouble. You really have to explicitly call that function through the name of the mother. You cannot have a super, etc., etc. You really have to explicitly say that mother A dot that function, something like this, which somehow breaks the transparency of the system. Okay, I thought you were asking that question. Anyhow, uh, that's that's
Okay,
fine.
thanks. I
So
got it. Yeah.
okay, so where do we? Okay, so this is fine now. Up to this, it is sort of working. So the important point is that Python has a very high level feature which is called introspection. Introspection means Python, a running Python environment actually can give you a lot of information about the objects which you are dealing with right now. For example, S. Okay, you try to do it in some other language, you will know what I'm. So I don't know. Let us say I don't know. I have never seen, because somebody gave me a byte compiled Python class. Okay, which is a package. I cannot really go and look at the text of that program. But I want to know, because I want to hack, I want to know which are the methods which are there, which are the member variables which are there, and so on. Then I can actually load that package and do a deed of that package. That will give me a lot of information like it has given. Okay, for example, if I think about package as a student .py, that means student is a module. I import student from that package, and I simply do, before even creating the object, I do deed of student. It gives me some information. And if it's a complex class with lot of attributes, you will find a huge list. This list is the same for everything. And instead of the class, if you create an object, then you have more dynamic information, like here, id, etc., all needed. So this is called introspection. It has a lot of a lot of power of Python comes from introspection. For example, when you do eval, also we do some kind of introspection, which we discussed a little bit, but we will not discuss about it except maybe one or two things on tomorrow sometime. Okay, now I have to finish this. So operator overloading. Operator overloading is what I said. Even an integer in Python is object. Okay, in C or C++, we say integer is an inbuilt data type, which is really very close to the system. But in Python, even if operationally you never felt that integer is the integer in Python is different from integer in C++ or C, you will, one can show that how can I show it? I think I can show it simply by saying, where is my, okay, I have to create a Python session, or this one, maybe here I can just add something. Let us say I say I equals to 5. Okay, I equals to 5. So this is fine. And I say print type of I, and then it says that class, then int. Okay, so it's not just a native or primitive data type, it's a class data type. And we said, although they look like very simple, that means I cannot really do this. I cannot really do I dot something. It's not an object like this. But in principle, I can also make sure that an integer works in the same way. So before I do that, let us try to see how I can myself create an integer, okay, an integer object. So an integer object will look like this. This is, I can say, class integer. Let's call it the capital integer. Then I should have the constructor. The constructor, when you create the object, you can pass some value. Otherwise, the default value will be 0. So self dot underscore value equals to v. This is very, very obvious to you. If you want to change the value, you can define a function called set. Okay, set will do exactly the same as the constructor, but it will not create the object. You are setting the value or resetting the value at some other point. So you can do that. But of course, if I create an integer and then I say if integer is I equals to, so I say, so how do you create it? You create it like this. If I, let's say for the timing, let me load it, and I can say d equals to integer. Okay, because it is my the class name. So I am creating an object and I am passing a value of 10. Then so it says this new variable d is of type integer. Okay, because I have probably I have done this str, then I can do an str and it will give me 10. Okay, now I am looking for something which is less obvious, because I want to now use this integer more naturally as an algebraic or arithmetic, whatever you integer. That means I should be able to now multiply d by 2. I should be able to add 2 to my integer, which is an object, and so on. So in order to do that, Python gives you a lot of handles to do operator overloading. So all those funny looking, out of all those funny looking special functions that you see, some of them you will see. For example, you will see something called underscore underscore GE. So this is equivalent to the greater than sign, greater than equals to sign. That means if you implement this function, because these functions, most of these functions don't have any body. They just have the interface. So in your class, if you attach your object to such a function and give your own body, then it will be operator overloading. That means then that object you can really compare. Instead of saying GE or something, you can use the mathematical operation. Okay. Similarly, GT, similarly LE, LT, and so on. There could be more. Also, let's say add, subtract, which is not here. So operator overloading means you can really use a special function called add. So underscore underscore add underscore underscore, you will find it somewhere. Okay. If you read, so subtraction underscore underscore sub underscore underscore. Similarly, for multiplication you have mul, you have, okay, this you have seen, representation, etc. So what I can do, I can, if I can implement this, then I can simply say that d plus 2. If I have, let me see whether I can do d plus 2. D uh, plus 2. Okay. So calling add, d plus d was 10 and d plus 2 is calling add. And you say that I'm printing calling add, and then it returns 12. So now you can actually use it in a much simpler way, as if it's a natural integer, it's a native integer. So this is important, and this is called operator overloading. If you are developing a mathematical entity where you will do this arithmetic with either if it's an integer like thing and you want to add it with another integer, multiply with another integer, or if you, I mean, the canonical example for people who will use 4 vectors, okay, in their work, will be to develop in Python a 4 vector. Okay, px, py, pz, e, or x, y, z, t, etc., etc., either in Cartesian coordinate or polar coordinate, and you give all the properties of a Lorentz vector. Okay, in Python you can do that. After you do it, you will feel that you have to call many. If I have to add 2 Lorentz vectors, I have to call an add function and so on. Then you will do the operator overloading so that you can say Lorentz vector L equals to Lorentz vector A plus B. Okay, so that is a lot of simplification. Instead of saying Lorentz vector L equals to A dot add B, something like this. Okay, or there could be even longer names. So even the longer names, if you have mathematical equivalent, you can do operator overloading in order to shorten it, and also it will look much more elegant. So this is what I have shown here, and I have just given you one example. I can also do subtraction, probably I can do multiplication, and you can see that I can also just write like this. Okay, d equals to 5. If I can do that, I don't really remember whether I can do it. Let me see. Yes, I can do it. So this will calling add, calling subtract, calling multiplication. D equals to 5, it will automatically take. And you can also, now it looks like a native integer. Although this is, d is an object, you can see that I have also d equals to 5 works. Okay, yes, d, because I have assigned d to 5, d equals to 5, it says yes. So you can, what else I have I have added? No, I have not added much, but we just by added just by overloading a few operators here, I can make my integer look like a native integer. And as I said, if you have a Lorentz vector, also you will also have addition, subtraction, etc., and few other things which you can overload, and it will look more natural. Okay, so this I don't you should know. If we had time, we would actually be doing the Lorentz vector, but we don't have enough time. I can give you an exercise where you can develop the 4 vector, and we can operate the 4 vector, get the angle between the 2 vectors. You can get the mass of you can say a plus b is a Lorentz vector. I want to get the mass of that vector, of that Lorentz vector, or particle, etc., etc. All these things one can implement. Okay, so these we have seen. The accessor, I think, okay, these we have seen. Decorator also we have seen in the morning. And the last thing which we did not, we simply mentioned, but I want to complete with that, is that in the, I said, inside the class, we should have all the member functions and member data. That means all that is attached to self. But there could be some attribute which don't belong to an object. It only belongs to a class. If that is the case, then you can call it a class attribute, or sometimes static attribute. So here is one example. So let us say I have a class called Python, person, and like before, I have initialized it with the constructor name and age, and then I need a class method. And this class method, you will see, that doesn't start with self. The argument list doesn't start with self. Instead, it starts with the class name. Okay, and here, this, I'm not really going deep into it. All I'm saying is that now if you create an object of type person, it cannot call from birth year, because it has nothing to do with that object. And this one is even weird. It is not attached to even the class. The earlier one from birth year was attached to the class, because you are creating an object. You can see that. You can see that you are creating an object, the class name, then name, etc., and you are returning a complex object, which is actually a person object. And this one is a very simple function, which is called isAdult. You are just passing a value called age, and if age is greater than 18, you say isAdult is true. So because of that, you can add both of them, but just adding both of them is not enough. You have to also decorate them. Unfortunately, you have to decorate them by saying that this is a class method, and you have to decorate this one by saying that it's a static method. If you do that, then you can use it really as a class method or as a static method. How do you do it? There are 3 ways here. If I just want to create an object, I will say, which we saw, P equals to person, James Bond, whatever. If you want to create an object through this, then you know that it's a class method. And how do you call a class method? Class method, you have to call by the full namespace. Namespace means you have to give the name of the class, and then you have to name of the function. So this is what I have done. Person dot from birth year, and you will pass now, instead of 3, like in the case of constructor, you will pass 2 arguments. The first argument is anyway here. The first argument is anyway here, the name of the class, and it will create another person. Okay, it will create another person. And then once you have the person, this one is an object. This one is an object, and you can use that object similar to your other object, which is P. So be careful. If I don't know whether you will need the class method, but if you ever see class method in somebody else's Python code, a decorator like this, then you know that class method will work with the decorator similar to the member, the constructor, where in the case of constructor, you call the you simply say the name of the class, and you pass the argument. In the case of class method, you give the name of the class, then dot name of the function which is there inside the class, and all the arguments, and they will create object which will be of the same type. Both of them will be of the same type, because if this is class name and I am passing the class name here, that means this class name is a person. So as if I am returning person, name, and age, like here, name and age. So you are creating an object of type person, and you are passing. So these are for convenience. Let us say these are for convenience. Sometimes you may have to call for certain reason a class method, okay, in order to create an object instead of the class constructor, the object constructor directly. When this will happen, I cannot often tell, but this is, if you really have to, if you find it somewhere, you will also find that there is a decorator just preceding the definition of that function. Similarly, if you have a totally unrelated, in some sense, that means to object or the class, but related by concept, that because it's a person, I can check whether he or she is an adult. Then I can simply pass the age if I know the age, and then it will return me a boolean, because this is the syntax of a boolean. Okay, that's it. So this is what I had to do about, I have to say about object orientation. Certainly there are much more to it. Okay, but we cannot really spend much more time on object orientation than what we have done here today. And most of the, I mean, there are concepts, as I said, object orientation is an important concept. Whether it's very good is still debatable. A few things you can keep in mind. If inheritance means code reuse, inheritance has a problem, because sometimes the inheritance is very vertical. That means you have a mother class which is A, which has some properties, then B inherits from that mother, C inherits from B, D inherits from C, etc., etc. It goes on. That means there is a long hierarchy. Take the example of root. Some of you have heard about root, which is written in C++. Root also supports such hierarchical inheritance. And let us think about a histogram. A histogram will inherit from another class or object which is called t named. No, not okay. If you are talking about a histogram with a floating point one, it will first inherit from a histogram which is a generic one. Then that histogram will inherit from another class called t named, and lastly the t named will inherit from t object. Okay, so it's a long hierarchy. What is the problem? That means if I want to create a histogram object now, first I have to pass correct argument to its mother called the generic histogram. Okay, then generic histogram in turn has to pass some argument to t named, and t named will pass some argument to t object. So in order to create a histogram object, I have to first create the mother, or the mother of all, called t object. Once the t object is properly created, it will create the next object down in the line hierarchy called t named, and after t named is properly created, it will create the generic histogram, and then only my histogram will be created. So it's a bubble going up and down. So constructing to construct an object down, I mean below in the at the bottom of the hierarchy, it has to, or the bubble has to all the way go up to the top, create properly the top object, and slowly go down up to the bottom object. So this also means that if all the classes from which I am creating objects are both memory wise and layout wise complex, just to initialize one object, although it gives you a lot of code reuse, will take a lot of time. So inheritance is not, deep inheritance is not efficient. That is the message that I want to do. So in Python also, you will find certain cases where there are deep inheritance, and you immediately know that they will not be very efficient. So the other way around, there is no other way around, of course, because code reuse is a good thing. If you have to rewrite code for everything from scratch, the bugs will also proliferate. So code reuse is a good thing, and if it is used by many people, then it will be checked also much better. So there are two paradigms. One is the through inheritance or code reuse. Another one is by composition. Then whenever you find a problem, you will try to break the problem into smaller problems, and even smaller problems, and so on, and you will implement solution for the smallest problem. And once you have the implementation of the solution to all the smallest problems, you will now try to combine those smallest problems in order to come back to the large problem. Okay, so that said, it's not that you can explicitly use either inheritance or composition. You will find that in most of the time the best compromise is to combine the two. And all the modern day object-oriented languages, they have very robust framework for doing both inheritance and composition, and that is how you build your system. So whenever you will find some system, you will immediately find that they have used both inheritance and composition. Nowadays this in the object oriented programming is facing some trouble. So, and some people are saying that there are other more efficient ways of doing software development other than object orientation, which I'm not going into detail. But Python is still fully based on object oriented programming. C++, for example, it has object orientation. It has also slightly other things than object orientation, like traits, etc., which is slightly outside the paradigm of object orientation. There are other languages, as I mentioned about Julia, which doesn't use the object orientation, but it uses something called multiple dispatch. Okay, so that you can have less code reuse is already inbuilt, plus you don't have to go through uh, this inheritance tree of object orientation and so on. There are other languages and there are more research, so that people can also use combination of object orientation. Okay, so some people also use the object orientation a la C. That means it's very bare bone object orientation, which is also good, because that means your code is very efficient as well. Okay, okay, so that ends object orientation. If you have questions, you can write it on the chat box, or you can ask me. I will. Okay, otherwise I'll take I'll take 2-3 minutes, and we'll discuss another important aspect. And I'll today is 2:30, so 1 hour. Ritesh, so what time should I finish?
We can go up till 4:30.
4:30. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll so so let me give 2 minutes. I'll just collect some more material which I want to
Yeah. I think
I want to
Aparajita has raised a hand.
Okay, so where is it? Please go on. Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. So I have a very basic doubt. So when we call a parent directory, so if we have some properties in it, like multiple properties in it, and we are calling in a daughter directory, so all those function will be used, or we have to call a specific function to save memory. Like, is
I'm
it
not
like
uh, if
okay?
you
I'll
repeat,
ask.
if you try to
Yeah.
rephrase it, then it will be better.
Okay, sir. So, for an example, I have made two directories, daughter directory and parent directory. So, from my mother directory, I have multiple definition of functions like addition, subtraction, but I don't want to use all of those. I just want to use one. So, is it like inherent, like if I'll call mother directory, so all those function will be there in the daughter class, or do I have to use a specific one
Ah,
if I need
okay.
only one?
So at least so first of all, whatever we have discussed about object orientation right now, they are all in memory. That means you to give again, to go back to the example, you have the person class. Okay, so you have the person class, you define your person class, that is in memory. Okay, somewhere in memory. Then you have the student class, which inherits from person, that is also in memory. So let us think about memory itself. Now your question is, if the person class has a lot of properties, lot of functions, and out of which the student will use only one or two, whether it can specifically pick up only one or two in order not to waste a lot of memory. Is it that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. No, the answer is no. That means if you already created a person object with a lot of properties, lot of functionalities, etc., you, whatever memory you are you require to build that object you have already allocated. Now, when the student inherits from the person object, it doesn't introduce any more extra memory because it will reuse the memory which is there in the mother. It will only use extra memory for those attribute which is specific to the daughter, in this case, the student. So the overall sum of the memory is not duplicated anywhere.
And sir, just a
Yes.
small doubt. So if assume my mother directory has a lot of properties which is taking too much time to run, so in that case what should I do? Because if I want to use only one just to save time, but it is running like all those properties, so
No, see, the problem is if you have a lot of properties for the mother object, okay, which are irrelevant for the daughter,
yes.
okay, then you don't inherit from that mother. So that is very easy to. So, I mean, you have to do some analysis before you inherit. Your if you are developing an object and you want to inherit from something, you will not go and inherit from somewhere which will give you more trouble than help you. Okay, so if that
Okay.
is the case, you will not inherit from you know that that is not a fit mother from which you can inherit. Okay, you have to inherit from only those mothers which are closely related to your object. in in
So in that
technical
case,
in technical
we
terms
can,
it's a yes, go on.
sir, in that case we can use multiple inheritance.
Multiple
We
inheritance
can
also you can
divide
use, but
those.
you should not use for certain reasons, as I say, as if yeah,
Okay.
if you really can find such occasions where you have 5 classes already developed by somebody and you are developing the 6th class which will inherit from all those 5 classes, and you can convince me that yes, there are reasons why I want to inherit from all those 5 classes, then it's, I think I'll not be against it, but that is quite rare. So the technical term is inheritance works when you have two objects, one is a mother object and is a daughter object, and you can say that the daughter is a mother. Okay, so
Ah,
the daughter
got it,
object
sir.
can actually have all the properties which it can reuse, otherwise you don't use inheritance.
Okay.
Otherwise you
Yes,
can
sir.
you can use the composition. If it makes sense, you can use the composition. Okay, any other questions?
Okay.
Sir, yeah.
Yes.
Actually, in the morning session, as far as I remember, while defining a class, uh, in the bracket, actually, you gave object. I mean, you have written object. So that time you
Mm-hmm.
told that it is in the top hierarchy, and actually I didn't get that. What I mean, why that object was needed there? I mean, that argument.
Okay, okay, that's a good question. That's a good question. I will not give you an answer with Python. Let me give you an answer with. Okay, I can also give you the answer with Python. So I mean, many languages, object-oriented systems, not only languages, they can have a topmost mother in the hierarchy, not a mother at the top of the hierarchy, which only defines some very basic properties which could be common to everybody, all objects that you want to develop in the system. Okay, that's what I said, let us take an example of the root framework. Okay, that will so in the root framework, some of you will work with root. We know that in root framework is for high energy physics data analysis. Okay, so all the objects in the root system, they are supposed to be an object which you can read from a file or write back to a file. Let's say there are some other properties also. So that is a very high level property, which I will not go into the detail, but a histogram, let us say a histogram you should be able to write to a file. Okay, and a histogram you should be able to read from a file. Similarly, there is another object which also you should be able to read from a file or write to a file. Now, for both these objects, you are not going to develop independently the read and write methods, because the read and write methods should be very common for both the objects. So what you do is you pass the read and write method to the mother class. So you have one mother which implements read and write method, and these two histogramming classes, they inherit from that mother class, so that you can read and write in a similar fashion for both the objects. You understand? So now if all the root objects in of the full hierarchy, you expect them to be read or write, read from a file or write to a file, then the read and write can actually move on and go up to the top level. Because from the top level, which whatever object you are actually defining, inheriting, all of them you should be able to either read from or write to a file. You understand?
Yeah, yes, sir.
So if that
Yes,
is the
sir.
case, just a moment, just give me one. Okay, sorry, there is a call. So so that way you can actually, all the properties which are common to all the objects in a system, you can actually move up to the mother at the top of the hierarchy, so that when whoever inherits from that mother will inherit those properties. Okay, and if needed they will override, if not needed they will use the default behavior and so on. So Python also tries to implement, I don't exactly remember, but if you have an object, we can also see if I don't remember, I can see whether it is still the case with Python 3. If I have, let us say, a equals to object, what will happen? Will something happen? Okay, and if you do Python type of a, and you see that this class name is object. Now if I do dir of a, then that will tell you what it is, and you see that all these basic properties, magical properties, they actually belong to the mother object class. So in order for you to avoid typing object all the time, even if you don't type object, all the Python objects actually inherit from this mother small object by default. You don't have to specify that. That is why, although I have specified in the morning, I said I'm not sure it is needed. So it is not really needed because it's the default. Even if you don't specify mother, which is object, actually your ultimate mother is an object. Because as you can see, the attribute of all these magical things, which we have seen also other times, they belong to the object object attribute. They are object attribute. Okay, I hope. Okay, so the last thing that we want to discuss today, and then tomorrow and day after, I think I will move to NumPy, because there will be a lot of stuff there, also pandas and stuff like that. I will try to do as much as possible. So string, this is another very important subject in Python. Okay, I don't know how much I will be able to cover, but I'll try. So a string,
Subir,
yes, Yes.
I'm saying that for pandas and plotting, there will be separate things, lectures.
Okay, that will be great. Then I can skip that, and I have some more basic things like I can, because I have in mind something very high level called a regular expression.
Yeah.
Okay, which I want every time I
So then you can
wanted to
focus.
create.
Yeah. Then one can go in that direction because uh,
Okay,
there
okay,
will
that
be
will
for
be
pi root and all these things together with pandas and plotting, matplotlib will be done separately.
okay. That will be great. Then I'm very happy, because then I wanted every time to I wanted to talk about regular expression, which is
Yeah.
a very high level thing and which
Yeah.
is sometimes okay. Very good. So then I can spend more time in the
Yeah.
next 2 days.
Okay.
Okay, great. So a string in Python is a sequence of characters, and strings are immutable. That means if you play with a string, you actually create another string. Okay, you cannot so that way, once again, you always remember that don't play too much with it wherever your memory allocation and reallocation is too many, because that actually kills the performance of a language. It's not only Python, for any language. In Python, it's even the penalty is even heavier. Okay, but that said, so for example, a Higgs boson is a string. Okay, also Python doesn't really care if you have, instead of two quotes, you have a single quote, and this we have already seen. This is a multi-line comment. Okay, also a doc string in a class. So ABC you can see, and then you have, these are examples, these are quoted strings. I can print something, and you can see that I'm saying he asked, and within then comma, which is your favorite team. Okay, so the question is whether this will work. Okay, let us guess, and I copy it somewhere in the meantime. Okay, what will happen to this?
Any
Any
guesses?
guess? No
Should not
guess.
work.
Should not work. Error occurs. Why you? Okay, then somebody has to tell me why error will occur.
I
It is
guess when you finish the
Syntax is
first
invalid.
quotation,
I mean
when you
your
finish the
yeah.
first quotation mark, it
Huh.
assumes that the string is like finished.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you. So it's already given here with the color, no? Because from here to here, this is a string. Okay, so and as you just said, Python will think that it should be now the closing bracket, but it will not find the closing bracket. It will find some more characters here. So in order, okay, if for somebody, if you really want to do it, you will just escape it. If you escape this, then Python knows that this is one quote, the which begins the string, and this one is the quote which ends the string, and in between, if there is a string which is escaped, I have to literally put the string. So if I execute this, then you can see that you literally put the string. Because Python supports also single quote, that means you also can write this. Instead of this, you can also write this if you want. So you put single quote here, then you don't have. Okay, so you see that they are the same. So the second one certainly is a little bit less noisy than the first one. Okay, so now if you have a string, you can if you have a string like this, the A is hello world, and you do dir of A, and you see again a lot of properties. Okay, some properties are internal, and some of them are not internal, and that is also a long list. So these are all the functionalities of the string class. These are all the functionalities of the string class. Many of them. Some of them we will see. Okay, so some of them will just read out So these are all of them. Okay, and also I have a module called string, which you can we can import, and if you do a dir of string, and you also see a lot of functionalities. And so these functionalities, string is a module. So if you want to execute functionalities from string, then you have to do string dot the functionality. And the other one which we have just seen is the function property of the object. So if you have a string called a, and if you want to check whether it's let's say is decimal, then I will say a dot is decimal. Okay, so this is the difference in notation. One is in the module, where I will specify the module name dot the function, and in the case of object, I will say object dot method. Okay. So here, as I was saying, so again, I don't have that much time to execute all of them. So you say this, and you check whether it's digit. It's not digit, so it will be false. Then you also have a functionality called find. You try to find the position, the index of W. It will be 6. Or from the right hand side, from the end, if you want to do it, then also you will find 6. Does it ends with W? So there is a method called ends with s dot ends with W. No, it starts with hello. Yes. Okay, and so on. The important one is this one, split. If I want to split hello world against space, empty space, this is what I have specified here. It will split, if it can split it, it will split the whole string into a list of strings, and that is what has happened here. It has split hello and world into a list of strings. This is very important. We'll see that. Okay, if you want to uppercase hello world, then you just say s dot uppercase, and everywhere you can see that this is here. You are doing something like a destructive way, but because string is immutable, you cannot destruct the original string. You will create a new string. Similarly, swap case. Similarly, if you want to do replace, okay, and if you want to expand tabs, etc. For example, if your hello world is like this, okay, hello, then a tab and world. So if you print s, then it will always print this. In order to print it correctly, by expanding the tabs, you have to really say s dot expand tabs. So there are many properties. Some of them are shown here. Okay, so let us now look at one quiz, one very small example. We try to convert a string which is within quote, okay, the start quote, end quote, 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma up to 8, and I want you to convert into the following: a string, but comma will be replaced by quotes, and we assume that we don't know we don't know a lot. We only know that there is a function called split of string, and also there is a function called join of string. If split and join, with the split and join, I want to achieve that. So how do you do? I'll just first copy it here on the here. So let us say s equals to this. Okay, so s, and I said we have something called split. So if I say s dot split, and you split against comma, and then you can see that you have created a list. You have created a list. One is a string, 2 is a string, 3 is a string, and so on. So a single string is now split into n number of strings. That means a list of strings. Now I want to join them. I want to join them with colon. That's also very easy, but the syntax is slightly awkward. What you will do is you will take, because the join is a method of a string, like split is a method of a string. I had this syntax. So similarly, join is also is a method of string. So what I will do is I will put colon, which is a string, either single quote or double quote, and then join, and I will okay. So first of all, let me S split, because we want to do everything in a single line. So it looks like this. This part, actually you have S, you have S which you are splitting against comma, which gives you a list of strings, and that you are joining with colon. So let's see whether it works. So it works. So this is something which is a small quiz, which I hope you will find it useful, because you will do split and join many time whenever you have to do some marshalling of data. If the data is in a format that you don't really want to pass to a method, then you will first change the format of the data, and in order to do that, split and join will be your friend. Okay. What else is there? There are more. Okay, so this is already shown here. Printing, of course. So when you print, you also do formatting. So there are old formatting, and there are there are new formatting rules. Okay, so let us. So old formatting rules says today's price is some value. So what you can do in the old way, today's price, then you put C like formatting. Today just percentage F. That means it's a floating point number, and then you put a after. So this is the string. This is the string. Then you put a percentage and the value. Here I am putting the value by hand, but in principle the value should be. I mean, it can come from a variable. If you want more precise number, you can see that the precision is too much. If you want more precise number, and these all come from C printf, then you can also put 0.2f. If you put 0.2f, then it will only use 2 decimal points. If you put a plus sign here, 0.2f, then it will also change okay. So it will, if you print 1.5 with a plus sign, it will say 1.50. So this is still valid with the new Python also. You can see that I have just changed to Python 3 by putting the bracket. Otherwise, if you are Python 2 with Python 2, then without bracket also it will work. The modern one, you may ask me whether the modern one is better. That depends, but at least is slightly more verbose, unfortunately, than the old one. So if you want to like print pi, so first of all, somewhere you will import math, okay, because pi is a part of the math package or module, and then math.py will give you pi. So what you are doing, once again, you remember that format. There is a method called format, which you will find. Where do you find it? Let's see whether you find it here. Format, you see that there is a method called format, which is a method of the object, which is a method of the object S. Okay, no, the A. Yes, so method of the object object A, the object which is the string object, not the string package, it's the string object. So you must first have the string and then say dot format. Okay, that's what you are doing here. And so this is your string. So it is slightly, I would say, unintuitive. Okay, if you are used to if you are used to C, it is slightly unintuitive. So within the first you define your string, and in this string itself you can put whatever text you want to put, and then you put the formatting. So here is my formatting. The formatting should start with parenthesis, and then there will be colon, and then 0.3f means whatever precision you need, and then you say dot format, and you say what I want to format. I want to format math.py, so that I get this thing. Okay? So this to me is slightly more verbose, but it's not something that I would say bad. The next one is actually very good. You can see that the same number you are formatting in 4 different ways. So you are saying print, then within bracket, the bracket is there, then you have the string here, and you can see that you are asking for 4 formatting. Okay, every formatting starts with this one, and also what you are doing is you are before the semicolon from colon, you are also putting 0. Okay, so by that you are saying that although there are 4 formatting, I actually want to format the same number in 4 different formats. So when I call the format method, I only pass, instead of passing phone numbers, a list, I am passing a list with one element. A list with one element. That's what I am putting 0 here. That means you try to format the 0th element of the list. 0th element is just given here. So you can see that this line will statement will format the same number into decimal, hexadecimal, octal, and binary. So these I find interesting. Okay, then you also have positional thing in, if you don't want to format numbers but you just want to use the position in order to format it, you can also do that. So for example, this is my string, I prefer 0 within parenthesis over 1, and you say dot format emax and vi. These are strings. Okay, this is a list. So the 0, if you in the case, in the place of 0, emax will go. In the case of 1, vi will go, because in the list emax comes in the 0th position and vi comes in the first position. Similarly, or you can also do it with a name. Okay, do it with a name. Instead of 0 and 1 index, you can say lang here, for example, or whatever you want to do, and you format lang equals to Python. That means here lang will be replaced by the value of this key, and the value of key is Python. So you can do that, and so on. So the modern formatting has I mean, you have all the old formatting tools, and modern formatting has got some more extension, which sometimes is pretty useful. Okay, so now this one, basic IO. Okay, and then I end. Okay, I don't have much time. So in Python, there is a module called sys, which gives you the system capabilities. Okay, and if you have sys, so let us do it, because this is very important. So if I go here, I do sys, so I import sys, and I immediately say did sys, then I learn, and you see that there is again a lot of properties. Okay, lot of properties. Whatever properties you have in Linux, everything is given here. And out of those properties, I have std in, I have std air, I have std out. Okay, and you remember std in is will be used as the input, and std out will be used to output in the output stream in order to print it, and std err is the error stream. So these three things I know. And if I go back there, so I have just highlighted std air, std in, etc. Now you can look at the type of these 3 variables. You can do that. How do you do it? You do it because they come from sys. So you can say sys std in. Okay, sys std in. No, because I have import std in. Just a moment. Why it says this I have done, I thought. Oh no, I am in a different place. Okay, so print type of sys std in. So you see that it has a very complex, it is a complex type, text IO wrapper, and it is coming from some package name or some namespace called _IO. Okay, so you don't really care. Similarly, the std out and std arr. So what is important, what I want to say that, okay, so this you can see. Now Let us do something nasty, that in if you are not on the Python, I mean Jupyter notebook, but you are on the Python shell, and you want to actually redirect whatever you type and the not type, whatever output you get on the Python shell to a file. Okay, if you want to do that, then what will you do? That is the question. So let us actually follow this on a terminal, then you will know. Not this one. Okay, so Python 3, and I say import sys. Okay, then let us say I open a file. Okay, now how do you open? How do you open a file? You can say f equals to open, and then you give a name, test.txt. This is the name of the file, and it's in the write mode. So I put W. It's not in read mode. I want to actually write to the file. Okay, write to the file. Now, if I do print then type of f, then I can see that the type of f is also exactly the same as the std out. So I can assign without any problem f and std out. Okay, so that's what I have done here. You can see that I have just assigned std out to f. Okay, so I do dot std out to f, and let us do print hello world. And what do you expect here to print? Do you expect to print it on the terminal? Okay, you see that nothing is printed. Okay, so nothing is printed here, and then you can say f dot close, and you go to another terminal like that, and you look at the file content, test.txt, and you see that the hello world has gone there. You have actually redirected what was supposed to be in the supposed to be printed on the terminal is now gone to the file, and you have closed the file. You can see it here. So in order to now get back your original one, you will have to do this. So you see, so okay, now you have to sys dot std out. You will now think, okay, I have already assigned std out to f, and I did not save the original std out. Okay, now I cannot do anything. But Python, even if you don't do it, Python has a special variable which you don't really touch, so you don't really change. Okay, so that is sys dot underscore underscore std out underscore underscore, most likely underscore underscore. So you can, if you underscore std out, I always put 3 of them, underscore underscore. And if you now print hello world again, now it will come to your terminal. So this is a trick which nowadays probably you will never play, because you will only work on the Jupyter notebook. But you can see that I can do nasty things, okay, as a shortcut. That means if you are used to doing a lot of things on the shell Python command line, then it will print a lot of stuff depending on what you do, and you may want to save them somewhere. So either you copy and paste them from time to time, or when you start working, you just you open a file, output file, assign your std out to that output file, so that whatever you write on try to send it on the std out, actually they are redirected to the file. Okay, as long as you until you actually reset it. So how do you reset it? You close the file, and then you you take a saved version of the std out, not this one, saved version of the std out, which Python carefully keeps for you to restore the original behavior of my std out. Okay, so this is one basic IO stuff. Okay, this I will not go into detail. std in means if you say sys.stdin read lines, that means then it will wait. It will now wait for you to type n number of lines or one line, and then you say Control D. So if I have data, here, and I go, let's say, on the command line. No, not this one. Paste. You see that it is waiting for you. So I can say hello world. Okay, 1, 2, 3, etc. And then I'll say Control D. So when I say Control D, the control comes back. And now if I print data, it will contain all the strings that I have input as a list of strings along with the new line. Okay, so this is what you can see. Okay, so this is something, and so on. And you can also see that instead of read lines, you can do line by line. So C's std in read, it will read only one line, and you can also call upper. So this is very interesting. Let me, for a different reason. So let us paste it. So it is wait. Sorry, missing. Sys std in sys read and then upper. Why? Missing parenthesis in call to print. Oh, sorry. This is again Python 2. So this is wrong. I should have, I never changed it. So I should have updated it to Python 3. Okay. So this one. And you see that it waits for you. So if I say hello world and I do control D, and you see that as soon as I did Control D, it has read the whole line, and it has also made the uppercase of the whole line and printed. So what is interesting here? The interesting part is that sys std in read will return you not only, but also you just look at the chain of operation. Okay, chain of operation with temporary variables without saving anything in as a variable. You can actually chain n number of operations as long as you develop your object correctly. It could be upper, and upper is so you can, for example, this one. Let us see. So if I say hello, Control D, it does hello. If I say type of this, and you can see that this is a string, and if I do this, that is also a string. Okay, this is also a string. So this one returns a string, and also upper will return a string, and they are joined by another dot. That means it's a string object. So you can actually combine a lot of operation one after the other. If all of the string operations, if all of them, all the operations can return string. So when you develop your class or object, you make sure that for certain things, you actually, after you do your work, you return the resulting object itself, the resulting string in the case of string itself, so that you can grab the string and you can again call another functionality on that string. For example, here I could say, let me remove the type from here. I could say another one. Okay, so what would I say? Split. And you can see that I have add another layer, and so cs.std dot read dot upper dot split, and now of course split doesn't return string anymore. Okay, so I could do something else. I could simply say, instead of print, I could say and you can see that now it prints 2. So this way you can actually combine, and readability is not affected at all, because it's very simple. There is no everything is done through temporary, in the sense that you don't create it in memory, not temporary in that sense, temporary in memory. Okay, is done. So if you can implement your code in that way, so that you don't have to really save intermediate states, so that you create more, you need more memory, more transient variables which will be created and which will go away and so on, then you get some efficiency as well, and your readability, I think, is not hampered at all. Okay, I'm coming to a close. So last is to read some file. Okay, and that's it. Okay, this is done, and you can see again another example of eval. You remember that what I say, with eval you can actually do something, and here is an extreme example. So where I am saying, input me your some code as a string and enter your input, and I am giving you a list comprehension as a string. So it's a string, and it's a valid string. So all you have to do is you eval that string. If you eval the string, actually when you do eval, it will change the check the syntax of the string which you have passed. If it syntax is valid Python syntax, it will actually it will be executed, which will create a list for you, and this is the list. So this one is also a very interesting example of eval. Okay? We have seen other examples of eval as well, and this is another important one. So let us say I have, I'll be quick now. Let us say I have a file where it's called a CSV file, comma separated file. So what is that comma separated file? You have a player, you have country, test run, and ODI run. Okay, and you have some entries, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. So you can read this file, and of course you will jump and you will say, I will use a data frame in order to, I will use pandas data frame in order to read this CSV file, because Python can directly read CSV file through pandas. That is right. But in this example, we will just read it through a very basic Python and do very simple work. The important part is to show you that how to open the file and read the data. So that is here. We have already seen how to open a file. So this is how you open a file. You give the name of the file, which is a CSV, and you give the read mode. So it's read. Then and we saw that a file can be read exactly as we read a list. So I can say for line in F, it will start going through the file and fetch the next line along with the new line. So it will fetch the line along with the new line, and then you can do a strip, which we discussed as well. Strip will strip away all the white spaces from the beginning and the end. If you have L strip or R strip, that will only work on the left or right, but just a strip will do away with everything. Then you split it against comma, because it's a comma separated line. So you say fields equals to line dot split. Line is my string, and split is a method of string, and you split against this, okay, comma. And then once you have this, if your fields, and you know your file, if the country is India, means the second one will be index 1. If fields is India, then you print the line and you close. So if I have that file here, let me check whether I have the file here. In principle, I should have players.csv, so I can just copy it. I can copy it, and in principle I can execute it. Okay, if I execute, it only shows me the 3 players who belong to India. So this is the very simple way of opening the file. Even if it's a CSV file, you loop over the file, you get individual lines automatically, you strip off new lines and any other white space character from the beginning at the end, and then you split it against the for the CSV, you against comma, so that you have a list of field, you have a list of let's say all the attributes, all the properties are in a list, which I call fields. And the second field is the country, so I just check whether the second field is India and print the line. Otherwise I don't do anything. Okay, as simple as that. Then once again I am running the same, I'm looking at the same code, and then I'm asking myself, what will happen if the file doesn't exist? Okay, then this line will fail. This line should fail if the file doesn't exist. If the file exists and there is a comment line somewhere, I have not really taken any precaution for the comment line. I just check the line, I strip it of white spaces, I try to split it through comma, and I check fields equals to 1, etc. But if it's a comment line, then my field 1 will not be correct anymore, may or may not be correct anymore. Okay, and in principle, if there is a comment line, I should just skip that line. I should continue and go to the next line. That also is not implemented here. What happens if some line is empty? Okay, so for example, if you have a line like this, if you have a line like this, so how do you tackle those lines? Okay, these are the questions. So at least this code doesn't do that. So what you can do, you can use a slightly modern approach of Python and in order to solve the problem of non-existent file. So you now use with open the file name, exactly the same syntax as if. If you do that, if the file doesn't exist, it will come here. The file handle will be automatically closed and it will come here. If the file actually exists and it can be opened, then only it will enter the line. So the first problem is solved. This one is solved now. Okay. The second one, then you loop over the file, you strip them, and if you say that if line and then find hash, if anywhere in the line you have a hash, you know that it's a comment line. It is for simplicity. I should have checked that the comment line, the hash is at the beginning. Right now I'm not going into that detail. Then I simply continue. Okay, I simply continue. Then I go to the next line. Then I split. And also in the same spirit, what I should have done is that if a line is empty, could be something like this, then also continue. Empty line I don't want to tackle. And lastly, some rows do not have all the required fields. How do you tackle that? You can tackle by saying that there must be 4 fields. Okay, and I can check that. The last thing I can check is this, not this one. So I've split already. I've split, and I say if lane of fields not equals to 4, then also continue. So this way you have actually tried to handle all the 4 objections that we had. If the file doesn't exist, in the first case, this case it will fail, but in the new case it will not fail. It will simply gracefully come here. Now you look over the file. If the length of the file, length of each line, not this one, the length of each line is 0, that means it's an empty line, then you don't take any action, you continue. If you find somewhere a hash, you consider it to be a command line, comment line, then you continue. Then if both of them are passed, then you split the line into fields, and if number of fields is not equals to 4, then also you continue. And if all these things are satisfied, then only you check whether it's the field 1 is India, and then print. Okay, so I stop here today. I think since Ritesh said still have 2 days to discuss basic things, I'll try to do more tomorrow. Okay, and then I will spend some time on regular expression on the very last day.
Okay. Good. So if there are questions, so there is some question. Vimal Kumar, uh, if
Okay.
yeah, in read lines, what was printed?
If read lines hello world was printed as a list after splitting, can we print it as an array here and store it from later use? Of course. I mean, if you split it, it is already already a list, so you can do it if you want. So where is that?
Join. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did it here. No, I did it on the command line. So you said split. So hello, this one. So I can, instead of this, I could say L equals to, okay. So then it still waits hello world, then this, so nothing else. And if you print it, you get the list. So was that your question?
Vimal, please.
Yeah. Can we make an array of it?
What do you mean by array of it? This is a
Like if
list is
there
an
is some data file, like some data that be generated, and it is in the list form, and if we convert it in the array, so array can be stored, right? Yes.
Which kind of array you meant?
Array of any string or any data points.
The list is exactly that for practical purposes. But anyway,
I mean, of course, in Python there is a module, but that's not inbuilt, called array. Okay, for C like array, but list is the most flexible thing. So what we have done here by splitting, I now have the array. Okay, array of elements, array of string, which I call list of strings. So if you can specify a little bit more, then we can try to answer.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Any other question? It will not. Okay, that is fine. Syntax error. How to print instead of list? Okay, I don't see any other questions. So I mean, this session was too technical because like the object orientation, inheritance, etc., etc. And then for string, which is very important, also we only showed example. I did not really talk much about any conceptual things. So if you have questions today or tomorrow, it's fine. Otherwise, I think tomorrow you will get questions for the quiz from both the sessions today. Okay,
yeah.
object orientation and string. We will prepare the quiz, and we'll give it to you. So we stop here, and I think we can start the quiz for today
Yeah.
if there are no other questions.
Yeah, so today's quiz will be based on yesterday's two lectures, maybe first when initial part of the 2 days, right? I think basically it's made out of yesterday's two lectures.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so I can stop sharing.
Yeah, and I can stop the recording.